Greek mythology. Greek mythology was used as a means to explain the environment in which humankind lived, the natural phenomena they witnessed and the passing of time through the days, months, and seasons. Greek myths were also intricately connected to religion and explained the origin and lives of the gods, where humanity had come from and where it was going after death. Greek myths gave faces and characters to the gods of the Greek religion, but they also gave people helpful practical advice on the best way to lead a happy life. Another purpose of myths was to retell historical events so that people could maintain contact with their ancestors, the wars they fought, and the places they explored. In modern usage, the term myth perhaps has negative connotations suggesting a lack of authenticity and reliability. However, it should not be assumed that myths were wholeheartedly believed in, nor should it be assumed that the Greeks were wholly skeptical of them. Probably, the Greek myths, as with any religious or non-written sources, were believed by some and discounted by others. Myths were certainly used for religious and educational purposes, but also may well have had a simple aesthetic function of entertainment. What is certain is that the myths were both familiar and popular with a wide section of Greek society through their common representation in art, whether that be sculptures on public buildings or scenes painted on pottery. Without widespread literacy, the passing on of myths was first done orally, probably by Minoan and Mycenaean bards from the 18th century BCE onwards. This of course allows for the possibility that with each retelling of a particular myth, it is embellished and improved upon to increase audience interest or incorporate local events and prejudices. However, this also is a modern interpretation, for it is also possible that the telling of myths followed certain rules of presentation, and a knowledgeable audience may not have willingly accepted ad hoc adaptations to a familiar tale. Over centuries though, and with increasing contact between city-states, it is difficult to imagine that local stories did not become mixed with others to create a myth with several diverse origins. The next development in the presentation of myths was the creation of poems in Ionia and the celebrated poems of Homer and Hesiod around the 8th century BCE. For the first time mythology was presented in written form. Homer's Iliad recounts the final stages of the Trojan War, perhaps an amalgamation of many conflicts between Greeks and their eastern neighbors in the Late Bronze Age, 1800 to 1200 BC, and the Odyssey recounts the protracted voyage home of the hero Odysseus following the Trojan War. At the same time, from the 6th century BC, the first documented skepticism and even rejection of the myths began with the pre-Socratic philosophers who searched for a more scientific explanation for phenomena and events. Finally, in the 5th century BC, the first historians Herodotus and Thucydides sought to document as accurately as possible and record for posterity a less subjective view of events, and so the modern subject of history was born. Broadly speaking, the imaginative Greeks created myths to explain just about every element of the human condition. The creation of the world is explained through two stories where a son usurps the place of his father, Cronus from Auranes and Zeus from Cronus, perhaps referring to the eternal struggle which exists between different generations and family members. The Olympian gods led by Zeus twice defeated the sources of chaos represented by the Titans and the giants. Hesiod's Theogony gives a genealogy of the gods, and his Works and Days describes the creation of man. Not only are gods described with typically human feelings and failings, but also heroes are created, often with one divine parent and the other mortal, thus providing a link between man and the gods. The next principal representation of myths was through pottery from the 8th century BC onwards. A myriad of mythical scenes decorate ceramics of all shapes and function and must surely have spread the myths to a wider audience. Greek mythology continued to be popular through the centuries, and major public buildings such as the Parthenon at Athens, the Temple of Zeus at Olympia, and the Temple to Apollo at Delphi were decorated with larger-than-life sculpture representing celebrated scenes from mythology. In the 5th century BC, the myths were presented in the new format of theater, especially in the works of the three tragedians Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides.